All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the final 1883 speaker series of the fall semester. My name is Mike Wozniak. I serve as the coordinator of leadership and programming in the Student Involvement and Parent Programs Office. Thank you. Thank you. So each week we invite a campus or community leader to talk about how today's student can develop their leadership skills, as well as other advice regarding personal and professional development. We hope you learn some valuable lessons in the next 18 minutes and 83 seconds. For today's speaker, please join me in welcoming the CEO of the UND Alumni Association and Foundation, DeAnna Carlson Zink.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you to all of you for being here today. I know this is a very hectic, stressful time of year, working on completing papers, studying for final exams, baking, wrapping, whatever it may be. So I appreciate you spending the next 18 minutes and 83 seconds here with me. One of the things I'm going to do today, because it's just such a crazy, busy time of year, let's take you away from chaos and talk about a few stories. I like to tell stories, as many of you know. So let's use this as story time. 6 different stories around leadership. But you have to promise me you are not going to fall asleep during story time, okay? I have had an opportunity to be a part of this university community for 40 plus years. As a student, as an employee, as an alumnus, as a parent, and as an advocate. And during those 4 decades that I've been here, I've had an incredible opportunity to meet with amazing university leaders, meet outstanding alumni, and of course, university friends across the world. So what I'm going to do today with the 6 stories I have for you, they're going to be things that I've learned from others, sprinkled in with some personal experiences as well. So the first one, courage. It takes courage to lead. It takes courage to be honest. It takes courage to speak with candor. As a leader, it's your obligation, not just even a right, but as a leader, you need to be able to speak with candor. And sometimes that's really hard. You may think, whew, those are some harsh words that I'm using. Maybe I should have said that a little softer and a little differently. But speaking with candor is what you need to do. If you are not honest, if you are not truthful, you are actually being unkind as a leader. It's your obligation to speak with candor. So think of it as you're the grand marshal in a great long parade. And so all these people are going to follow you. If you have not been truthful, if you have not been honest in your words, if you have not spoken with candor, these individuals aren't going to follow you because they won't trust you, and you'll simply be walking in a parade of one. This fall, I had an opportunity to go with 55 alumni and friends on an alumni cruise. And when I think of having courage, I think of the captain of our ship. So do you need a captain of a ship that's just going to stay in port? No. You need a captain of a ship that's going to go out to sea. You need a captain who speaks with candor, who speaks with truth, who is honest. Somebody that's not going to worry about unkind words, who is going to have to make quick decisions and speak sharply sometimes because he or she has a lot of people they're in charge of, and they want the crew to be able to follow them. If you are not that trustworthy captain who has done all of these things with courage, you won't have anybody following you. I like this quote from executive coach Gabriella Goddard. She says, "When you know who you are less likely to be buffeted by the winds around you. You feel more confident and you trust your ability to overcome obstacles. This self-confidence has a powerful ripple effect. If you have the courage to lead, you will not be leading a parade of one." Listening. My favorite leader to quote is Winston Churchill. And he said, Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is what it also takes to sit down and listen. Listening is a very important part of being a leader. In 2019, Sideways 6 conducted a survey to determine the top 50 listening leaders in the world. Through a public call, they asked people to nominate someone that they thought was a great listening leader. Their definition of a listening leader was an organizational leader who, for the benefit of their company, their employees, and their own performance, chose to make actively listening to the ideas, insights, and inputs of their employees as a key part of their leadership strategy. David Abney was chairman of UPS with 481,000 employees. In 1974, he started working at the local depot, hauling packages from the van to the building at night in order to make money while he was studying. After 40 years, David had worked his way through the ranks of UPS and had become CEO. He credits a lot of his success to his ability to listen intentionally. I love that. Listen intentionally to employees. And one of the first things he did upon being recruited as the CEO, he went on a worldwide listening tour. He let the company's employees and the customers tell him what they thought they should be focusing on. One of the employees said, "When David issued a call for ideas, many of which were implemented, it was almost earth-shattering. We couldn't believe leadership was finally listening and acting on our recommendations." Angela Arntz is the former senior vice president at Apple, and she said listening with empathy is a key skill all leaders should look at to develop. When she was asked what is the most important skill for a new CEO, she said listening. And when she was asked what is the biggest mistake a new CEO can make, she said not to listen. Seems pretty simple, right? But it's not. It's simple, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. I consider myself a good leader and a good listener. Sorry, I meant to say listener. I consider myself a good listener. But during the pandemic, I had to become a much better listener and actually a more patient listener. There were some days that were more difficult than others, as we all remember. And sometimes I just wanted to shout, literally wanted to shout, "You just don't understand what we're dealing with." But I didn't. I listened. And our entire leadership team learned to actively listen. And as an organization, I believe we became stronger and more vibrant and more resilient and actually more effective. Number 3, clear vision. When you hear the terms vision or mission, I'm sure many of you automatically go to developing mission and vision statements for an organization. And then you roll your eyes and you're like, oh my God, I hate doing listening and vision and mission statements. It's so tedious. Yeah, it can be tedious, but it is so important to the work that you do. Let's go back to that captain of the ship. If the captain doesn't have a plan, if the captain doesn't have a vision of where they're going, what is going to happen to that ship? Just going to sit out on the sea and be pulled around by the tides and the wind and have no direction. That is not a way to lead. It's the same whether you are in charge of a department, an organization, a company, or even for your own life. You should have a vision. What is your vision for your life? One of the best visions I've ever heard was John Deere's vision back in 2011, 2012. And it simply was feed the world. And all 82,000 employees knew what their vision was. In fact, there's a story that was told about a visitor who came to corporate headquarters and came across a janitor. And they asked the janitor, "What is it that you do for John Deere?" And the janitor said, "I am helping to feed the world." Having a clear vision focuses our organization on our mission and our guiding principles. Our mission as the University of North Dakota Alumni Association is to support UND faculty, alumni, students, and the greater community by providing resources for growth and development. Our vision statement is to foster connections, inspire generosity, and advance the University of North Dakota. And our team is governed by 3 key guiding values. We are passionate about our organization and its mission. We are innovative in our thinking, and we are collaborative in our efforts to make a positive impact on UND and its students. These statements, our mission statement, vision statement, guiding values, it's where we go when things get difficult, when days are difficult. We focus on these and we hyper-focus on our students because we are here for the students. That's the reason we exist. And we often talk about this in our organization. University leadership changes, logos change, markets go up and down. And our team has had to deal with all of those situations. But in the end, we always come back to, what does this mean for our students? Number 4, creative thinking and being willing to change. Obstacles are going to pop up, and you have to have new ways to solve problems. For me, part of that is to let every new employee and to remind our longtime associates, to remind them that you have a voice. Whether you've been with us for 20 minutes, 20 days, or 20 years, you have a voice in this organization. We didn't hire you to come here and sit quietly. No, we hired you to provide your ideas and to provide your vision and your thoughts and your creative ideas. I've been here 40 years. It's a long time. We need fresh ideas. We need more people coming in. I want to hear what it is you have to say because you've got great ideas. Elizabeth Goddard said, "Put perfection to one side and cultivate an experimental mindset." And I love that quote because it ties back to one of our guiding values, to be innovative, to always be innovative. Too often we believe we must have the entire idea fleshed out before we move forward. But that pursuit of perfection can really stifle creativity. I believe in bringing those ideas to the table and getting more people to work on them and come up with more ideas and be more creative. I believe a perfect example of not being creative is the BlackBerry. Now, many of the students might not even know what a BlackBerry was, and the keyword being was. BlackBerry was a brand of smartphone that was originally developed in 1999. I, at that time, was working at Bremer Bank, and the executive team received all new BlackBerries. It was the coolest thing. I love that BlackBerry. In fact, my kids will still talk about that. It specialized in secure communications and, of course, mobile productivity. In 2011, there were 85 million subscribers. But by March 2016, there was 23 million subscribers. In September 2016, they announced that they would stop designing their own devices. And just in January of 2022, the company permanently shut down email, messenger, and other services operated their phones. Now, why did BlackBerry have such a spectacular decline? First, they were very slow to adapt. Because their smartphones were made for business, they didn't look at the consumer-based iPhone as a competitor. They didn't even consider that. They stopped being innovative in both their software and their hardware. They were slow to make their decisions. They focused internally and not externally. They only focused on the enterprise. They didn't even take into consideration how consumers' tastes and preferences were changing. In short, they stopped being creative, and they were completely unwilling to adapt to the changes that were happening around them. Number 5, calm resilience and being able to adapt to challenges. Your team is always watching you, and how you respond is how your team is going to respond. In our organization, again, we often talk about taking the high road. that focusing on the students, why we are here. Believe me, it isn't always easy to take the high road, but in a public-facing organization like ours, oftentimes you have to turn the other cheek. You have to reevaluate your situations, and you have to come up with new solutions. One of the stories I keep taped to my computer screen is The Office, is the story about Captain Sully Sullenberger and him landing the commercial plane on the Hudson River in 2009. And many of you probably remember the movie with Tom Hanks back in 2016. Well, Sully was asked, how did he handle the situation as they were quickly coming in and he had to move very quickly, make changes very quickly, decide what he was going to do. And he said there was 3 key things: force calm, prioritize, and stay focused. Again, during the pandemic, this was key for me. It didn't matter how I was feeling personally. It didn't matter at all. What I needed to do was be calm and to prioritize. Our leadership team had to decide what we as an organization were going to continue doing and what we were not going to do. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of the author John Gordon. It's one of my favorite. This author is passionate about how to develop positive leaders, teams, and organizations. His books are quick and easy to read. And The Coffee Bean is one of my favorite. This book focuses on how you adapt to challenges in a positive way. The story talks about how life is like a big pot of very hot water. It can be harsh. It can be stressful. It can be difficult. We often find ourselves in an environment facing conditions that really test who we truly are. You have 3 choices in these situations. You can change, you can weaken, or you can harden. For example, what happens if you have a pot of hot boiling water and put a carrot in the water? The carrot becomes soft and weakens. What happens if you put a full egg in a pot of hot boiling water? It becomes hardened, has a hard shell. What happens if you put a coffee bean in a pot of hot boiling water? Takes a little bit longer, but the coffee bean transforms the environment around it, and it becomes coffee. So, who do you want to be? When you're faced with these challenging conditions, do you want to be the carrot and just acquiesce and say, no, God, I can't deal with it? Yep, you do whatever you want to do. I'm going to just become soft. Are you going to be the egg where you're just going to be hard and become negative and not agree with anything that's going around you, but not change because I just don't agree with this? Or are you going to be the coffee bean where you transform your environment, come up with new ideas, adapt differently to those challenges? I say be the coffee bean. And number 6, I want to reference back to that top 50 listening leaders that Sideways 6 had put together in 2019. Satya Nadella, CEO at Microsoft, was number 8 on that list. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal in 2015, Nadella shared his simple 3-rule method for better meetings. And it looked like this: listen more, talk less, be decisive when the time comes. Which leads us to our 6th lesson, and that's to make decisions. Don't think about every decision that you're making. I mean, just think about your day-to-day activities. You have to make a lot of decisions, right? But don't think about them as life and death decisions. These are opportunities to make choices, and you have to make choices to move forward. And sometimes you're going to have to change those choices and come back and do it differently. But the important piece is that you are moving. You're moving forward and making those decisions. And you have to remember, if you have done everything else right, if you've gone through all other 5 lessons, it's not just about you making decisions. You will have empowered your organization and your teammates to make the right, sound, and ethical decisions as well. If your organization isn't moving forward and not making decisions, everything else around you is just going to go right around you, and you're not going to be leading. Have you heard the story of the flat squirrel? So this is what we call a Papa Wayneism. Wayne's my husband. Papa got 9 grandkids, so he always likes to impart wisdom on these young people, right? So we're in New York City in March, and we have our 16-year-old grandson with us. And we are like in the 38th floor, and we're in a fairly full elevator, but not completely full. So we're coming down, and we get to the 8th floor. And the door opens up, and there's this family of 4 standing there. And they look at each other, and they look at us, and they're like, oh, in. No, should we go? No, don't go. Oh, no. And then by now, the elevator doors are really jamming up against them, right? So they back out, and the elevator door closes. Well, I know Wayne just has so much he wants to say about this, and I'm like, oh. So we get down to street level. He says, Braden, do you remember when we stopped on the 8th floor and that family? What do you think about that family? Braden goes, well, they couldn't decide if they wanted to get in or not. It was kind of full. You're right. They couldn't decide. They couldn't make a decision. And he goes, Braden, have you seen flat squirrels on the road? Braden's thinking, oh, Papa Wayne, this is a trick question now. Yes, I've seen flat squirrels on the road. Why are there flat squirrels? Braden goes, why are there flat squirrels, Papa? And he said, those are squirrels that couldn't make a decision. Do I cross the road? Do I not cross the road? Do I cross the road? Do I not cross the road? So whatever you do, make a decision and don't be a flat squirrel. So in summary, 6 key lessons I hope you've taken away from this today. First of all, courage. It takes courage to lead. It takes courage to speak with candor and be honest and be truthful. Lead with courage. Number 2, listen. Listen actively. Listen intently. Listen with empathy. And always remember you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionally. Number 3, have a clear vision for you, for your organization. What is your plan moving forward? How are you going to keep moving forward? Get into the habit of habitual visualization. Where am I going? Number 4, creative thinking. Don't get too comfortable. One of my least favorite sayings is we've always done it this way. Don't do that. Don't get comfortable, because if you do, you're going to be the blackberry. Number 5, calm resilience. Think about how you can adapt to the challenges, the environment, what's happening around you. Will you be the carrot? Will you be the egg? Or will you be the coffee bean? And finally, make decisions. Whatever you do, do something, and don't be that flat squirrel. So thank you so much for being here today. I appreciated your attention, and good luck to accomplishing all you need to accomplish by the end of December. Thank you.
Thank you, DeAnna. Thank you. And thanks to all of you for coming. As I mentioned before, this is the last speaker of the fall semester. Join us on January 10th with the Dean of the School of Law, Brian Pappas. Thank you very much.